Hey, welcome guys to another episode of Talkshop with Rude. I'm your host, Steven Arboleda, and here in just a couple moments we'll be joining David Cox here with a couple tips on how to build decks and just also getting to know another player in the community, one of the brewers. It's pretty much this is the whole point of these segments is how do you brew a deck and kind of getting brewers in here and kind of piggybacking off them because myself I'm not really all that good with that stuff, but I can sure as hell pilot a deck. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Now, one thing that I did want to get you on here for, first of all, I just wanted you to tell us pretty much who you are. I mean, how you work, what area you're from, or how do you play the game. I mean, let's kind of start from there. Ooh, actually move your head a little bit to the left.
I didn't put that there intentionally. Like, what is that?
Oh, you got yourself a trophy.
Does this look familiar? I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of does. I think we got one over here too.
Oh wow! I see we're twins. Now
yeah.
Everyone hates us.
Probably. But yeah, tell us a little about us. Who are you? What's your name?
My name's David Cox. I'm from originally Vegas. I lived there my entire life. And so I went south with jobs, and I left Vegas to design casino games in San Diego because that's the logical thing to do. So I've been out here a while. So it's a major shift from the Vegas meta to here. Vegas, it's like 8 to 12 people. Two of us really pushed competitive. And then coming out to San Diego with the LA crew, it's just everyone is out to kill you.
I'm sure you got a bunch of hitters out there. I mean, I think Vegas was you and Basari.
Yeah. No, he's a longtime friend of mine, ex-roommate, and the only one who keeps me in check when I get all ranty online.
Hey, that's what friends are for. I know I definitely go on a couple of spiels and I got Curtis put me in my place, but that's what friends are for. You mentioned something about the meta being different in San Diego than in Vegas. I mean, what are the differences?
So this is still kind of a small game, and because it's small, it is not entirely solved. It's not like Magic, where hoping you're not getting all these pings from my Facebook updating. I'm gonna shut that down because San Diego likes to ping me repeatedly. Okay. Sorry. So the meta. So this game isn't as solved as a game like Magic, where you have thousands upon thousands of players testing every deck. So the jury's always out on what people can run. And so Vegas being a small group of people, there's only so many ideas that are tested. So a lot of brews are, I just like this card, kind of define what the decks are. Whereas in LA and San Diego, we have like 40 to 50 people at these meta potions. We have people that are top 8 in Crystal Cups. They're really going for tried and true packages in their decks, or they're at least trying to counter them so that you see some familiarity. You know what to expect a little bit. I go to Vegas, I have no idea what the hell people are going to run. I just know it's going to be weird and different. Except for the one guy. There's going to be one guy that's going to copy Turbo Discard. I don't know who it's going to be. There's going to be one.
I mean, I feel like everywhere you go, you can count on the field at least being 20% turbo. So that's why I put Shadow Lord in my deck. I mean, I'm counting on 20% of the field being turbo, so I'm playing Shadow Lord now.
I'm telling you, just run 3 Shadow Lords, give it a week, and then it'll go away.
I think everyone needs to commit to it.
Community effort.
This is a public service announcement. Please commit to 3 Shadow Lords in every deck, and we'll get rid of Turbo Discard. It's only got to do it for like 2-3 weeks. Let's get it done.
That's where Matt Okimoto has it wrong. He's got the 3 Nidhogg. I believe in the 3 Shadow Lords. That's my campaign.
Rice doesn't believe in 3 Nidhoggs. So that deck name is awesome.
I want to believe in 3 Nidhoggs, but if you've ever held 3 Nidhoggs, that's a bad day.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, what got you started with playing Final Fantasy? I mean, did you play any TCGs before this?
So I have been a long-time Magic player. The kitchen tabletop days were Urza's Saga. I learned how to play competitively in Mirrodin. And then I became degenerate when Commander started in Vegas. We did Comp REL Commander, which that should sound terrible. It is. It was like 40, 50 people fighting over $100 cards, and it just turned me into an overnight spike player. And I got kind of burnt out on Magic. There was a lot of toxicity, and there's some things with like the resource system I didn't like. And then my friend's like, "Hey, here's this Final Fantasy game." I'm like, "I don't know." Like, Magic's the real man's game, and then he says, "You never get mana screwed," and that made me very happy. So I gave it a shot. I like Final Fantasy. I've only played a few games, so I see a lot of these characters. I'm like, "Who's Terra? Who's this?" And
Same.
I get people offended. They're like, "My wife, boo." But I tried it, and I found everything I loved in Magic was in this game and more. Everything I complained about in Magic, which I'm kind of known for complaining, is there's not a lot in Final Fantasy. I love the pathing, the decisions. When I lost, I didn't get what I needed. I looked at my discard pile and went, I could have done better. And that was kind of a nice feeling that you could grow beyond your losses. Mm-hmm. So that's what got me into this game.
I mean, and you know what? You're not the only one who says, I never played Magic, so I can't really relate to what you're saying when it comes to Magic. But one thing that is very consistent is people saying on how the mana is why they love Final Fantasy compared to Magic. That's the most common thing that I hear from all Magic players.
Like we hear like, "Oh, I got backup screwed," but you still could play. There's still ways to make that work. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that might be the strategy, just to drop a 4-drop 8K and then build backups behind it. That's actually been a strategy that's been used to beat me sometimes. But it's very rare that I look at a game like that was unwinnable. Mm-hmm. And I like that about that. But yeah, I knock on Magic, but we wouldn't have these games without Magic. Magic was in the Wild West of figuring it all out, and every other game went, "You're doing this right, so we're gonna fix this over here." And so I think future games have a major advantage. So I don't want to trash Magic too much. I love it for what it gave me.
Of course, I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, the game is still around. They're still making a bunch of money, and they still got a huge fan base. So I mean, it's a great game. But I just love Final Fantasy. Every Magic player who's just converted over says they love it because of the mana pool and how that happens. But pretty much, we kind of got your backstory as far as what made you like Final Fantasy, what kind of got you in the game, and of course that trophy back there kind of shows one of your accomplishments. Have you done anything else?
I mean, so this is I've had a win before. I won NPC 3, I think. Mm-hmm. They don't give trophies after that. But you know, I've had moderate success with topping. But this has been the only TCG I've really gotten recognition. I did play a lot of Magic. I played with people who were winning GPs and whatnot, but I never actually went.
Yeah.
I was a little intimidated by travel and all those other things, and you know, it's really expensive to play that game. Like if you really like a deck, and then the meta shifts, suddenly you go from tier 1 to tier 2. I don't really have the money to just
dump another like
switch deck like that,
$500 to $1,000 just to bump up a couple cards.
Well, it's standard. It's like $200-$400 swing, but I just couldn't justify that. And then this game, I actually have a playset of this game, and I found it wasn't that hard to collect. I just had to do decently in my weeklies. Mm-hmm. I might buy a box like every other set, and I just trade away all my foils. But you know, if I have an idea, I get to build it. And so I didn't feel inhibited. Like if I traveled, I knew I had the deck I wanted. If I needed a last minute change, it was there for me. So that was a major appeal for me to really go hard in this game.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, some of I would like some of our cards to have a little bit more value, but because it's always like the same every like new release. It's always like the same 3 or 4 or 5 cards that 5 to 6 cards that are like over $30 a piece, and then everything else is like dirt cheap.
So it's kind of a weirdness. There are cards that are very undervalued, and when they finally spike up to where they should be, it's almost random. I was in a shop the other day, and Illawa and Diabolos, I guess just for that day, got price gouged and shot up into the upper 20s.
No,
or something like that. It was like
Illawa. Because I got a bunch of cards at the table back there. So like I was organizing a bunch of stuff. But Alua is a little bit over $20 right now. Diabolos is over $20 right now. It's they're good, so yeah, they should be valued up there.
But for a long time they were kind of like $5 to $8 tops, mm-hmm. and you're like, they're good. That Diabolos, I think it was $5 once, and I was looking at that's a 3 of in any win deck I play. So I'm not surprised it shot up, but when it shot up, just seemed to be without context.
Yeah,
I didn't see a Crystal Cup win, and then it shot up. It just kind of did it. So some cards I think are ticking time bombs. It's just a weird market.
Now, one thing I want to get into. I mean, since you won your most recent Crystal Cup, what did you play? I mean, not Crystal Cup, your local qualifier. Yeah.
So what did I play? I think they're calling it Vice Kings. I always give terrible, stupid pun or inappropriate names. I think we're calling it Re-Enter the Dragon now due to the Nidhogg's.
Oh, no. Oh, no. For some reason, I thought you were on Carbuncle, but no, you were on Vice Kings.
No. That was last. I am trying to figure out how to bring it back. I've been looking at that Minwoo intensely. Like, how do I make you work?
Yeah, well, I seen I had not the most recent LCQ, local qualifier, but 2 before that, because I've been to 5 of them. I mean, I was hunting this trophy. But one of them, my buddy Colin, he was playing it was a Carbuncle deck, and turn 2 just drops that Minmu with a Gravitron on the back, and he's got another 5-drop on the board, and he just casts the Carbuncle for free with the Minmu effect, bumps him to 9k, and then bumps the 5k to 7, and it's just like, okay. You're gonna outvalue me all the time with this.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an idea. The problem I had is whenever a new set happens, I disband all my decks. I don't try to just improve what I have. I try to relook at the meta, see what's going to do, and I always have, I guess, Brewer's block. And after I lost my first LQ to Arvin, I had like 20 deck ideas. So. The night before I won my LQ, I think I woke up at midnight and brewed for 11 hours before I walked in, and I was just on about 4 energy drinks. So I need to get back around to the Carbuncle deck. It was a big favorite of mine in Opus 5.
What was your mindset going into Vice Kings? Because that's what I was calling it, as Vice Kings, pretty much.
Yeah. So this is as close to the meta I've ever run. Normally I'm doing the weird brews off to the side. But I knew I really wanted to do Renoa Nidhogg. I was trying different decks. I had a really janky Ice Earth using Kefkas and Magic Pots. Tried making it work. It didn't work. But then I saw the Vikings, and I'm like, this is so close to what I'm trying to brew with. All I need to do is jam the Vikings in there. It's basically what I'm already crafting. So, so Okimoto and the others, they beat me to it, and I just said, it's so close, might as well hop on. But I had to figure out, like, there was little gaps that were bothering me. Like, I was terrified of Data Loom, and I still am. So my little tech piece is Arcanist.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. So my tech piece is Arcanist, because I realized there's a patterning between a lot of the top tier decks. So Turbo discard, a lot of 2-drops. Data Loom, a lot of 4-drops. Lightning, the problematic ones are the 3-drops and the 5-drops. So if you drop an Arcanist, you can just yell the number that's a problem, and you can shut a lot of these decks off. There's not the only deck that's really varying their numbers on threats is the Vice Kings deck. Like Arcanist, what number do you call?
You got 9, 4, 6. Yeah. You got Genesis Avatar in there, so 9, 4, 6, Cloud of Darkness 5. I mean, you got it all pretty much. I don't think and even 2 drops because you got Sid Reigns in there. Do you have Sid Reigns in your build?
I don't, and we're talking about that. We are crafting different versions. We've got mid-rangey ones, we've got aggro ones, and we're trying not to have too much overlap in what we already beat. So we're figuring out, like, all right, this is win more, so we're gonna cut this back, and we're gonna dedicate to beat this. So like when I won my LQ, I was very overzealous to blow out Turbo Discard, and I had 3 Zaleras. You probably only need 2, but I really wanted to, top deck wipe their board.
Okay.
So
fair enough. I take it that was the blowout play that kind of swung it in your favor.
So I think in my LQ that I won, in the one I got second place, I had to fight 3 mono ice in a row.
Were they turbo or tempo?
There was the more classic mid-rangey one with the FF6 package.
Okay. So tempo.
Then there was the DGS turbo discard. And then I had Arvin's build, which is turbo discard without the DGS.
Okay. The regular turbo discard before Jordan Day came up with the GGS, pretty much.
Yeah. So this one did not have Zalera when I fought him, and I felt like that could have turned the match. I didn't have the Arcanist either. I went in with my friend Jeremiah. We ran pretty much the same deck. We argued over 2 cards, and he was definitely right about one.
What card was that?
And I put in a Chaos because I had the dumb idea that I actually wanted to raw cast my Kefka sometimes. And it was a bad idea. And sure enough, I had that moment where I had the answer to beat Arvin in Swiss. I just needed any pitchable card, and I top decked the Chaos when I needed a card to pitch, and I lost that game.
Yeah, that definitely hurts. That definitely hurts. When you look at your deck and you're like, I can draw anything but this one thing. Let me just draw anything, and you just rip the bad light or dark card. It's a horrible feeling. So I've been there.
I had the Nidhogg on the field. I top decked the Renoa. My eyes lit up like I got him. Finally got him. I pulled the Chaos, and I just extended my hand. I'm like, damn it.
So then, talking about your pretty much your LQ. What were your matches in Swiss? What was memorable, pretty much? I mean, I don't expect you to give me a little detail. But.
Okay, I try to remember some of them. So I went against a few Data Lumas, and as terrified as I am of that deck, I actually handled them all pretty well. But the variants of Data Luma, I think, matter a lot. There's the YRPs. There was a Gilgamesh Cannon one that absolutely destroyed me. I don't know if you know about that combo. Okay, so derailment and one of the decks I'm working on. So Leo came out, and the first thing I thought of was I think it's Opus 3 or 4 Gilgamesh.
The one. You actually so you played a mono fire deck, splashing a little bit of lightning. When I met you, it was pretty much 5 fire backups and just ping something for 10k every
so
turn.
That was a fun deck I saw someone did, and I'm like, that looks way too fun, so I ran it. So that idea kind of sat with me. I didn't want to trust that deck. That was kind of a one-off. But when I saw Leo, that was the first thing I thought of. So someone else had the idea. I think it was it Brian Berkeley? No. It's Kyle McGinty, I think. One of those two. But they ran it with Earthwind Data Luma, and they just tucked in the Leo Gilgamesh package, and I couldn't get out from underneath it. So that one was the problem one. Thankfully, I didn't have to fight that in top 8. But I went against Mono Lightning. The deck just has too many answers, I think. Mono Lightning is very well positioned, but I think Vice Kings is a really bad matchup for it.
Here's the... I played against Vice Kings with I played Mono Lightning for my LQ win. The first time I played 2 weekends ago. One on Saturday, one on Sunday. The one on Saturday, so I had control the whole board. I mean, I played really fast with backups. I was at 4 backups pretty quick, and at that point I was like, all right, I can play literally anything out of the deck, so I'm good. I started just dropping forward to my thing, and I had him at 5 points of damage. And he ate the damage. He kind of won on me, and then the blowout play was just dropping Nidhogg, dip out Renoa, and he just controlled the board. There's nothing I could have done. He got my Zemus and he got my Estinian in one play, and all I had was Alcid, Onion Knight in the middle, and I was like, okay, I give the game to you now. I ran out of gas. So I think that matchup was actually pretty hard for me because they turned the corner on me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Vice Kings has that matchup. But I think Mono Lightning beats the rest of the meta, or at least breaks even with it. I think it's got one of the best answers to Turbo Discard, because Exodus and Rama are just amazing. And if you have a way to extend it, Cyclops is actually really good right now, too.
I'm actually playing 2 of Cyclops, and believe it or not, the last couple of matches against Turbo Discard, if I don't have Shadow Lord, but I have a Zemus in hand, play Zemus, and then I keep my neck, I pass, I draw 2 and don't do anything, and from there I can do whatever I want. I'll just play from the graveyard.
I'm glad it came back. I got really excited for Quetzalcoatl. I'm saying that right. But then Cyclops the meta just screamed it, and I'm actually surprised it doesn't see more play. I think you should be running 1 or 2 in any Lightning deck right now.
Yeah, I definitely think that card is a 2 of. But yeah, as far as the Ice Viking deck, I mean, what else did you play that you kind of struggled with? I know you said the Gilgamesh Cannon.
That's really the only struggle I've really run into. Everything else I've done really well against. So I've taken on mono water Vikings. I had an okay time with it.
Was it monsters or mono water just forwards and summons?
So I've seen monster builds, but I think it's Kyle again is running Ozma. So my friend Jeremiah struggled with that, but I run Kefkas in mine, so I'm hoping I don't have to suffer the same fate. But I got my meta up here to make sure I can remember what I've been facing. I fought some ice lightnings. They haven't given me much problems.
I don't think Ice Lightning's in a good place right now. Not where it used to be.
Yeah, it can be. It's always got good stuff. It's just there's no synergy that's super strong. But they do have Glacia and Ramah, which is Glacia, Ramah, Zolera, and Exodus. So its control package is one of the best. But I think you got to alter the makeup of what we've seen in the past, where people are just trying to aggro dull at you. And I don't think it's getting there as much. I fought a Golbez. That didn't go well against me.
That early aggro kind of really screws your deck up, especially if they get the Golbez off. You're kind of hurting after that.
I'm able to kind of stall out with Layla Viking. And like I said, I run Arcanist, so if I yell 2, things get really bad. And if they go greedy and I Nidhogg their Golbez, it's the worst feeling in the world for them.
Oh yeah, it's gotta suck.
Yeah.
I tip my head off to you and shake your hand and call it quits. Pretty much, that's where I stand on that. And the finals, you played Nathan Perez in the finals?
So Nathan Perez finals, he was running Ice, Wind. I probably should pull up who they were. So I fought Dan Gwen. Still don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I want to say... Oh, I remember. All right, so it was Earth, Water, and then Nathan Perez was Wind, Ice. So Wind, Ice, he's playing it like a traditional discard. Not full turbo discard, but definitely on the lower end. So you got your Thoms, you got your Argaths, Sarahs. But he was splashing in the new Zidane with Chaos Walker the Wheel. I don't know too much of the other Wind things he had. I think that was his main goal. And I game 1, I managed to get my version of Turbo Discard, which is I just got every Thom and Edward possible. And when we play the top deck game, my game was just much stronger than his. So we kind of pushed on stabilization. We both discarded each other, had little bodies out, and then I just played a Cloud of Darkness or a Nidhogg, and he couldn't get out from underneath it.
You're playing Therms in your Vice King build?
Yeah, so the build I ran had 3 Thoms, 3 1-drop Vikings, and 3 3-drop Vikings. So I do have a low aggro potential, and I think that day I was running 2 Kefkas. That was the idea with the 1-drop Vikings, and it also feels Cloud of Darkness. So yeah, I'm able to stabilize pretty quickly against aggro decks just by chump blocking until I have enough value to combo my way out of it.
Yeah. And who are your heavy hitters? How many Nidhoggs do you have in there?
I'm running 2. Every day I want to run 3 because I really hate Dataluma. I think 2 is where it's going to stay. But yeah, I'm still trying to sell that. I might go back to a second Kefka just because it can kill Dataluma.
So it's currently 1 Kefka, and then as far as the Laylas, of course, 3 of Laylas. How many clouds are you putting in there?
3 clouds.
3 Cloud Darknesses.
Yeah, it's so easy to feel it. And it's such a card that you want to see that I don't want to feel bad pitching it. I don't want to get tunnel vision, see his Cloud of Darkness, like, oh, I want to play this, but I'm not ready yet. And then I lose the game just because of that. Because
you held on to it. See, I just started playing online Vice Kings, and I feel like that's what the trouble. Because I know Cloud is the big play. Cloud or Nidhogg are the big plays that make you switch it or turn the corner, and I'm holding on to it a little longer than I need to, and I should just pitch it.
Yeah, it's actually a very hard deck to pilot because the ability to bait yourself is very high. You're going to look at the Renoa, you're going to look at the Devout, you're going to look at something that you want to go crazy with, and your opponent's going to pick up on that, and they're just never going to give you the opportunity. And you're just going to... Those few turns where you're not doing much, they're going to take advantage of that, and you're not going to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably one of the more skill-based decks right now to play.
Okay. Then I don't feel all that bad that I'm struggling. Doing pretty well with it.
I'm still figuring it out. Like, people are like, oh, you have to play this deck, and I'm like, sometimes Jeremiah plays it differently, and I think he was much more poised to beat Arvin than I was. Whereas I feel I handled other matchups that he was struggling with just by his play style alone. He's much more aggressive than I am.
Okay. See, I'm more of a laid-back player. I want to chill on a couple backups, and then once I have a back row, I'm like, okay, now I can actually play the game.
I'm notorious for taking 5 to 6 damage before I start the game.
At 4, I say that's it. I gotta play it forward. I don't take past 4 because you can somehow gimmick your way for them extra 2 or 3 points.
You can, but I've just traditionally the whole Arcbuncle deck was. I think the NPC tournament I won.
Mm-hmm.
They keep track of how much damage you've done, for the tiebreakers. I had dealt more damage to myself than my opponents, and I won every single game at minimum 5 damage. So I'm pretty used to it. It doesn't bother me, but it also I've noticed it gives people like false hope, like, oh man, he's almost dead. He's 6-0, and then I'm just planning to blow out with resources, and then they don't understand what's coming.
I mean, turning the corner feels pretty good. I mean, when you think you're on the back foot, and then you just let them know, no, that was your plan all along. It's definitely got to be a great feeling and pretty rewarding coming out on top for that.
Yeah.
Now, when you start brewing, I mean, because that's pretty much the whole idea of this interview. I mean, I'm not much of a deck builder, and I know there's people out there who are not either, but they can pilot the heck out of a deck as soon as they know how it works.
Yeah.
So where do you, being like the brewer that you are, where do you look when you start putting something together?
So it is, I like to surround myself with people who disagree with me. So I like argument, but I like argument with purpose. I like to get to the best consensus. So I will go off in a stupid direction. Like, all right, the meta's going to figure this out. Everybody knows Turbo Discard's going to be great. Let them figure it out. I'm going to work on this silly Wombo combo over here. I'm going to have a person that's going to do the same, and then we're going to argue over this card should be in, that shouldn't be in. And I'll be right about some and wrong about others. And having people to bounce ideas off of is where a lot of the ideas come from.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't finalize a build until I see what the meta actually did. So for Arcbuncle, I made a prediction. I thought Mateus was going to be a problem. Black Knight was going to be a problem. There were a lot of breaking things problems. Thoms are able to just bully with Mateus. So I went with Ash Wrestler and Vincent because Minor came back and made the S ability better. But their passive of not being broken, I thought was a massive counter to what was going on. So I started with that as the base, and I was just looking at the meta. I'm going to counter it directly, and then what else can I do with this? And so I had made a deck with Carbuncle, and that was the fun idea. And then I realized there was some overlap between Ash being a 7K and Minwoo just making it impossible to get off the field. So from there, it's a lot of different things. So people arguing with me, always going for stupid ideas, and then responding to the meta directly, and I just kind of put those ideas all together.
Okay. And do you lean more towards like a specific, like, do you pick a card like, oh, this forward is really busted, I want to put something around this, or do you kind of go with like a back row? I mean, what kind of direction do you mean look? Are you all over the place depending on the deck type or the archetype?
So I am by nature a combo control player. I've tried doing all in aggro, and I can't do it because the big question I always ask is, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, what terrible thing would I do to myself in this situation? So I can't play aggro because it just gives me anxiety. But usually I start with I try to figure out what can a card do. I don't go for the community's response of, oh, this card's busted. The more they say that, the more I think they're going to do all the research for me. So I kind of run in a different direction. I'll get the notes later. So I look at the cards that are, is it good? So I look at like a card like the New Zidane where it can be busted.
I think that card is amazing. You drop him turn 1 and it's a problem. You have to deal with it.
Yeah, but there's also the problem of what if they just Ramut or Glacia at it after they play a backup? You lose the value. And you have to dedicate things to kind of get it in there. But can you get there? So Carbuncle was a card where it's like, can it get there? It had the potential. You could think of how many ways it could be busted. You also think of how many ways you can get 2-for-1. And so I like to explore those cards the most because every once in a while you find one that, if you have the right arrangement, you can justify it. They call them like live the dream with certain cards. And sometimes the dream is just about tuning. You gotta figure out all the problems. Whereas I see people like try something and like, oh, it was bad this time, and then they move on. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna figure it out. It's a puzzle to solve.
I mean, that's mono fire. That's pretty much mono fire right now. It's not all that great, but we're always trying to crack that thing.
I ran mono fire at one of the LQs as a joke.
Oh, why? Why?
Well, as a poll, I ran 3 Chocobo Chicks, 3 Dark Lords, and 3 Jeks. That was the challenge.
No, you didn't do well. You didn't do so hot. There's no way.
I went 2-3. There was this person named Bai. He got slaughtered.
At least you got he dumpstered one person.
I actually got close. The person who won it, his deck was far better than mine. But there was a moment I realized that had I drawn a Dark Lord, that could have been a very different top 8. And I'm like, oh, that would have been bad. So.
And I mean, I think we're pretty much all wrapped up here. I mean, any advice that you want to give someone who does struggle with brewing and kind of where to start?
So the way you gotta find a balance between acknowledging the meta is there, as much as not being afraid to experiment. Like, the brewers sometimes have a beautiful butterfly syndrome. Like, I'm so unique and I'm gonna do my own thing. You still have to look back and see what the meta is, because every deck is only as good as it compares to what everything else is doing. You may have a great deck, and if the meta shifts, that deck may lose its presence. Mm-hmm. But it also means that when it shifts, it might bring something back. So there are many forgotten cards that I feel people have like, oh, they fell off because of power, the power creep. And I'm like, no. It's there's certain cards that just come back. Like that Vincent I said. Vincent was pretty cool in Opus 3, and then it kind of fell off in Opus 4. And in Opus 5, I brought it back because minor happened. Mm-hmm. And then the breaking was a lot more relevant. So look at what other people do and use that to influence your decisions on trying new cards. But never be afraid. Like, I've taken many seemingly bad ideas and done very well.
Mm-hmm. Now, actually, one thing piggybacking off of that, because this deck was my Opus 4 deck, and I love that. That's probably my favorite deck I've ever played, was Wind Water Standard Units. I placed 5th at the Summoner Series in Charlotte with it. Curtis placed right behind me at 6. He made the deck. I just piloted it. And the deck just has so much value, but I feel like it's just not enough now. There's too many fast decks, and you really need to stabilize a back row with it. But playing like the 2-drop Mime with all the anthems in the back row and just copying your forward, or the regular Mime being 12k, and Ranger, I think Ranger's a great card, a really good card.
It's actually very well positioned. If you can get that thing up to a 9k, Daedalum is going to have a real massive issue, but you have to get it to 9k.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So I want to kind of figure out a way to crack that deck and see if I can bring it back, because you would think Paladin now would make that deck better. But but it hasn't been. So actually, this is me asking you for advice on this deck. Actually,
you gotta be careful. Because every time I think of like what makes Daedaluma feel bad, it's all these 5-drops. But Daedaluma also likes to run 3 Diaboluses, and that's what's been keeping me up at night.
It's a problem.
It is a problem. It's a very well positioned deck. It's only betrayed by its clunkiness in getting started. But I'd have to look into it. We're definitely looking into... I mean, now that everybody's figured out the Viking package, and you can go back to the original YRP, you have one of the most efficient ways to get bodies on the field and keep a full hand. Cloud of Darkness is busting that. So, maybe not got... You don't probably have to go full tilt on the standard units. Mm-hmm.
Eliminate the arcs, because... Usually the wind arc is pretty good, like increase all standard units by 1k, but you would get rid of that, but then at that point you can't get Ranger to 9k.
Yeah. Toolboxing, I think, is also another idea people need to explore, especially if you're in wind, so that new Moogle. And my Daedaluma deck is actually a toolbox.
I love that card.
So you have Asura to get back Moogle, and So you can do a lot of one of. So if you're doing standard units, you might want to have a few one of targets that like this solves this solves that. This is just raw stats, so I'm going to run 3 of this. You might want to be able to diversify.
Okay.
But, I haven't tested it personally. The big question: can it beat turbo discard? And then you begin building from there.
That's how you solve the Meta Knight. Is can it
Real
beat turbo
question.
discard? And then afterwards, all right, you can't beat it. Let's go ahead and see if we can do anything else. Got it. On that note, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Pleasure having you on board, brother.